Quý khán giả của đài SBTN, kính thưa quý vị, ngày hôm nay chúng ta có một cơ hội để gặp lại những nhân chứng sống của 34 năm về trước, tức là ngày 30 tháng 4 năm 1975. Những nhân chứng sống trở lại với chúng ta để nói lên một cái lịch sử, trong đó bao gồm tất cả những cái kỷ niệm của những người đi trong cái chuyến tàu đó được cứu vớt. Đó là con tàu USS Curts. Ngày hôm nay chúng ta có cơ hội để gặp hai nhân chứng ở ngày hôm nay. Đó là một người chỉ huy của chiếc tàu USS Curts, ông Jacobs, và một người nữa là hiện tại bây giờ là sử gia của Bộ Y tế, Hải quân, ông ta tên là Herman. Ngày hôm nay chúng ta có cơ hội để nói chuyện với tiếp xúc với ông. Thì ngày hôm nay trong cái phần phỏng vấn có Đại Thi. Xin chào Đại Thi.
Chào anh. Xin kính chào quý vị khán giả. Hai nhân chứng sống hôm nay đến với chúng ta thì các ông có cái dự định cũng như là cái tiến trình mà các ông dự định làm một cái cuốn phim tài liệu về cái chuyện lịch sử đã xảy ra mấy chục năm về trước, nhưng không có ai biết đến cái chuyện xảy ra ngày 30 tháng 4, tin về 30 mấy chiếc tàu hải quân của Việt Nam Cộng Hòa lên đên trên biển cả vào đúng cái ngày mà Sài Gòn rơi vào tay Cộng sản. Thì đây là những nhân chứng sống đã cứu được mấy chục chiếc tàu đó và có mặt với chúng ta hiện nay. Chúng tôi xin trình bày cuộc thảo luận với hai ông bằng tiếng Anh. Hi, this is Paul Jacob and Jen Herman. Would you tell us why you are doing this documentary movie on the event of the April 30, 1975? Either one of you.
Well, it was a very emotional end to a very horrible war, the end of the Vietnam War. And many people don't realize that some real good came out of all of that. There were so many refugees who had no place to go, were coming from Vietnam to escape the communists. And this is a story that's never been told before about a ship, the USS Curts, that was part of a larger fleet of U.S. ships that rescued thousands and thousands of these people and gave them an opportunity to have a second life in America.
So how many Vietnamese ships were there out in the ocean?
I was the commanding officer of the Curts. We had about close to 40 ships, 2 aircraft carriers, and this was involved in the evacuation of Saigon called Operation Frequent Wind. And we probably picked up 250 refugees and moved them to a merchant ship. And we were headed to Subic Bay when I got a call to report to the 7th Fleet Admiral immediately. And when I got there, he said, "I'm sending you a gentleman by the name of Richard L. Armitage, and I want you to go back to Quonset Island and rescue 30 ships from a swift boat to a Coast Guard wreck and approximately 30,000 people."
30,000 people and 32 Vietnamese Navy ships?
Yes.
Exactly, April 30th.
That was I picked him up around midnight, I think. Is that right, Jan? On the 30th, and steamed rapidly during the night and got there before dawn. Now, you've got to realize that country doesn't belong to us anymore, and my rules of engagement were verbal from the 7th Fleet Admiral. You have to protect your ship. They could be flying our aircraft coming out of there, and I said, well, I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. The only hope we had was in the chaos we might be able to get in there the next day after it fell and get these ships out of there moving east towards Subic Bay. And to make a long story short, Mr. Armitage took a lot of my crew, the officers, enlisted guys, and got these ships and boats underway and headed to Subic Bay. And they had my chief corpsman there who used all these medical supplies in a few hours.
It is amazing.
It is. When I think of what this crew is, the crew's made up of 240, probably 110, 115 of them are 17 through 20-year-olds. And what these young people of America did in turning a man of war around into a humanitarian ship was unbelievable, truly unbelievable.
It was. Right. And for the magnitude of the number of the boats and the people, we did not know. We, the Vietnamese, when the South Vietnam fell into communists on April 30th, we did not realize that there were Navy ships out there in the ocean without nowhere to go.
And there's two profound emotions going on here. The Vietnamese and I get emails, at least 1 or 2 a month, and I have for the last 4 or 5 years, wanting to find the crew member who took care of them was on the ship, and they want to pay their respects. The other side is the young men of America want to find the Vietnamese they took care of. Where are they today? What are they doing today? And those are two profound emotions, and it's unbelievable.
Yes. That's amazing.
Mr. Herman, you just mentioned about very emotional moment in that time in 1975. What reason you recall that very old event?
What's the purpose of recalling this event? Well, as a historian, our job is to try to educate a new generation of people into what happened in history and past history. This happened 34 years ago, and I've been amazed that many more people have not heard of it. But since they haven't, our job is to try to tell this wonderful story, because it's such a positive story. Most stories that come out of war are not good stories, they're not pleasant stories. They're people who die in war and refugees. Here is an example of a group of warriors. These men on the Kirk were sailors who were trained. That particular ship was equipped to sink Soviet submarines because it was the Cold War, and that's what that ship was supposed to do. And instantly, with no training, with no background, they turned a man of war into a humanitarian ship. And these young sailors, 17 to 22 years old, many of them, were taking care of children, we're feeding them, we're re-diapering babies, we're providing medical care and first aid to people, and making this ship as welcoming as they could to allow these people to transition to a new life, perhaps in America, perhaps elsewhere. So it's a wonderful story, and we think it's worth telling.
Was that a one-time mission, or any mission after that one to rescue people?
Well, as far as the Kirk was concerned, that was a one-time mission. But since then, the Navy has been involved in many humanitarian assistance missions. Earthquakes, the tsunami that we had most recently, the floods that we've had in various parts of the world, especially in the East, in Indonesia and other countries. So this is something the Navy has done. We're not just warriors. We also take care of people, and we provide them with medical assistance, food, and other things. So it's happened more frequently, but the Kirk is an example of what happened 34 years ago, how this one ship took part in this wonderful operation to save all these people. You can imagine what it must have been like for the, I don't think anyone was aware of the fact there were 30-some-odd thousand refugees waiting at Con Son Island on these ships.
No.
They knew there were 32 ships there that needed to be led to safety, escorted across the South China Sea to the Philippines. But almost all the people I've interviewed from that period, when they woke up the following morning and they pulled into Con Son Island and the sun came up and they looked on those ships, and they were covered with thousands and thousands of refugees.
Yeah.
One of the crewmen said to me, he said, "Do you know what it's like if you take a candy bar, a Hershey bar, and you put it on a hot street or a hot sidewalk in the summer? Suddenly it's crawling with ants." He says, that's what those ships looked like. The ships were crawling with people, thousands and thousands of people. Many of them hadn't had food, water. They were in not very good shape because they'd been out there for a long time. And he said, if that's what you could see on the deck, how many more people were below deck you couldn't see? So suddenly one ship, USS Curts, and there were several others that were involved, they were suddenly responsible for taking care of 30,000 refugees with 2 young corpsmen, medical people on the Curk. 2 young corpsmen to take care of 30,000 refugees. It was a daunting situation, but they did a wonderful job.